Welcome to the Owning Your Sexual Self podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Main, awesome wife and dog mom for life. I'm a sex therapist turned sex coach, and I run a successful business selling relationship enhancement products. I absolutely love talking about all things sex. So you can expect this podcast to explore all things related to women's sexual health because that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you discover and embrace what brings you pleasure so that you can own your sexual self. If that sounds good to you, then keep listening and let's fucking do this. Hi, Erin. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today to talk about threesomes with me. I'm so pumped to have you here today.
I am so excited to talk about this topic.
Yeah.
My favorite.
Yeah. And this is your second time on the podcast. If you have not listened to our first episode together about exploring non-monogamy, definitely go check that out because it was so good. And I feel like this is really an extension in a way of that conversation today.
It is. Whether you're non-monogamous or maybe you just have more flexible monogam-ish boundaries, but threesomes are a great thing to throw into your relationship.
Yeah. And now I'm thinking like, okay, so you all know, Erin, like my husband and I were monogamous. If we decided to have a threesome, would that make us monogam-ish, or can we still claim monogamous with having threesomes?
Okay, so this is really interesting because I have had clients that have literally talked about non-monogamous relationship dynamics, but they still identify as monogamous, which, you know what? It's just a label. I don't know why we have to be attached to these labels. If it makes you feel better to call your relationship monogamous, but yet you still let yourselves play with other people or go to sex parties or have a threesome every once in a while, you can still be monogamous. I mean, just make up your own rules. Mm-hmm. I don't know why we're following other people's dynamics and rules and labels.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you said that because what I have heard in my experience is that threesomes are the number one fantasy that people have, and that's across the board for men and women. Yet there's all these fears that people have, which we're definitely going to get into on this topic today.
Yeah, we don't want any of the fears stopping you from exploring something that's this hot.
Yeah. Yay. One day, Erin, I'm going to cross over to the dark side, and I'm excited for it.
We'll bring you in. Maybe this episode will change your mind.
Maybe, yeah.
Not even change your mind, but maybe it will just entice you to look a little deeper.
Yeah, I just slip it into my husband's DMs, like, what do you think about this? That's my classic. What do you think about ... And then he's like, oh shit, what is she about to drop on me?
I like that. That's the anticipation. It's a new way of sexy talk.
Yeah, and it's always when we're driving in the car, so he has no escape, like he has to listen to me and answer.
Or just send him a gift. That's even more passive there.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
Visual stimulation.
So you are a sex educator, a sex coach, an intimacy coach. You specialize in people that are exploring non-monogamy type relationships, and also you are in this lifestyle yourself. This is a part of who you are with your partner, and I get to hear in our mastermind group about all your play experiences, and it's so exciting. But tell us, I know it probably didn't always go as well as it's going right now. Maybe there were some few bumps in the road, but can you tell us about your very, very first threesome experience that you ever had?
So the first threesome experience I ever had was definitely alcohol induced. I will be completely honest, but it was super interesting because I'd always been interested in women, but I never really, I didn't know if it was normal or weird or whatever, but either or, I was out with a girlfriend. There was some really annoying guys at the bar. And so that we just claimed to be lesbians so they would leave us alone, which really backfired on us because then the guys were even more interested. But then we had to prove it to them, so we started making out with each other at the bar. And the rest of the night we were just going along with this, we'll call it role playing. And we ended up going back home with all of my German roommates, and one of my smart German roommates decided to check in on us and see if we needed a breakfast burrito, and he just came at the right time, and we're like, hey, do you want to join us? And that was my first threesome. It was so fun. I honestly focused more on her than on him, but that's what got me into it, and I thought it was the best experience ever. And that's what really lit up my curiosity. I didn't even realize I was that interested in it until I tried it. And it was always in the back of my mind, and I always wanted to try it again, but it didn't happen again until I had my current partner now, who I've been with for 8.5 years. We're getting married in September, but he was the second threesome I had with him, and we've had quite a few since then.
Quite a few, ... I love it. And okay, so with you and your partner, you were the primary couple and you brought somebody else in for the threesome?
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Tell us how did that go? How did that conversation go? Who brought it up? Give us all the ins and outs.
So at this point, we were exploring non-monogamy, or exploring more of what we call like lifestyle relationship. And so we were interested in group sex. We both were interested in a threesome. And so about a year into our relationship, we'd had group sex together, but we wanted to have sex together with one other girl, which we'd call like a unicorn per se. And so I found her on Tinder, I believe. And I was very clear in my profile of like what we were looking for. And I really wanted to vibe with her. I think that's a big thing too with threesomes, is that you're really dealing with 3 different people's energetics. Mm-hmm. So it can be kind of tricky to find 3 people that all, have some chemistry. But she was super cool. She was like a tatted up, kind of like badass chick. And yeah, we met up with her. We went out for drinks. I don't think we did dinner that night, but we really established we were having so much fun together. We're like, hey, do we want to go back to the house? And it was so fun. I mean, having sex with your partner obviously is an amazing intimate experience. And my partner and I had talked a lot about being on the same page and going into all of this of what we wanted to try and what we thought were important, where our boundaries were, what we didn't really feel safe doing. And we felt very comfortable in that moment because we'd had a lot of these conversations before in group play experiences. But, so it ended up just being like a whirlwind of a night, which most of these experiences are, which is why it's so important to have these kinds of conversations ahead of time with your partner, because everything goes everywhere. And if you can just flow with the experience and get into it. At one point, we had this like double-headed dildo out, and it was probably the highlight of it because so he's trying to figure this out and basically play with both of us with this double-headed dildo. And then his cat decided, his overweight cat named Smudge, bless him. So he wandered in and we had the Wii vibe, and it was on the floor just like vibrating and just running around, and the cat you see in the background, and he's swatting it with his paw, like back and forth. So he's trying to figure out the double-headed dildo. This cat is swatting around with the Wii vibe. And it was just, this memory is still so potent to me. I freaking love it. And it was a hot experience. We're still in contact with her. Now it's been almost, like 8 years now, I feel like. So it's fun. Wow. And since then we've had some really fun ones, but yeah, that was our first one together and we were definitely hooked on that dynamic sense.
That's amazing. And to hear that you had so much conversating around it going into it, and like you said, exploring desires, exploring boundaries, that negotiation process, and then practice really is what it comes down to. Like you said, this woman has now been in your life for 8 years, going on more, and leading you to so many new sexual experiences with other people. But before that, even for you, like being this person that's so open to it, what were the biggest fears for you, or what were fears that he brought up before this that really were present for you that I'm sure a lot of people can relate with?
I think that when you're talking about bringing anyone into your relationship, whether it's, going to a sex party or having a threesome or foursome or moresome, is this fear that they're going to be better than you in bed. I think that we are really hell-bent on this skill set of ours, and that can be really intimidating because we feel like if we bring someone in, like, what if they're better than me? What if he or she likes what they do better than me? What if they have a trick that I don't have? But I think when you flip that, it's really interesting because you think, well, yeah, because we're introducing novelty into our relationship. I love bringing in new people because I learn new tricks. There's things that I've never tried on him that I see another girl try on him and he likes it. And I'm like, cool. Now I have a new trick to add to my bag. And I think that that's the power in flipping your fear into something that's exciting and desirable and something new that you can do. Instead of seeing it as a threat, how can you learn it? And how can you be curious about it? Curiosity is like what I always go back to in all my practice with clients, but also in my personal life, because it's so much more fun to see life through that. So I think that that's one of the biggest things that comes up is, what if they're better than me? I think another one is, what if they fall in love with them? What if they start talking to them behind my back? And that really comes down to insecurity in your relationship, honestly. Like, do you trust your partner? And if you don't trust your partner, this is honestly probably not going to be a fun thing, because you can't even get into the experience if you're over here thinking, well, what if they start texting them? Or what if this girl starts sexting him? I mean, it doesn't matter if this girl starts sexting him after the play session. He can say something about it and be like, hey, this isn't what we agreed on. This isn't what I'm interested in, or never respond, you know? But you have to trust him or her to do that. And that's just, again, going back to the security in yourself and your relationship. But I think that those are probably the top two fears that I feel come up. There's a lot that come up around it. And I think that that's what I hate, because I really want people to feel liberated in life, love, and sex. And people that are curious about threesomes, it can be so fun, but oftentimes it's their fear stops them, because they would rather not dig a little deeper and clear that fear away so they can play and have a cool experience.
Yeah. That is definitely both of those things hits it for me, definitely. And well, I think for both of us, I feel what you were saying on the first one is like what if that person is better than me? And even being somebody that is so like confident and secure in my sexuality and in my tricks and whatnot in the bedroom, right? Like, you still have that fear. What if they're different? What if she's different? What if she tries something that I've been wanting to try and he lets her and not me? You know, like that sort of stuff comes up. And then I'm going to be a little salty bitch in this threesome, and I'm not going to like that. That's not fun. Right? Or yeah, I'm sure that he has the same, I know that he has the same fears when it comes to that. So this is another question that's coming up when we've talked about threesomes in the past, or even through conversations with friends. Is it, in your opinion, is it better to have threesomes with somebody that you don't know, like you did, like finding somebody on Tinder, a random person? Or is it better to do somebody that is already in your friend network that you would then continuously see on a friendship basis afterwards?
I definitely think it's like a case-by-case basis. But overall, I would say someone that neither of you know, because I do think that having someone that you know can trigger a lot of things, because there's not as much space. If the experience isn't as positive, you know, sometimes we don't feel as safe with friends, you know, being like, hey, I'm not into this. Because one of the things that I have in a lot of like coaching people through threesomes is you have a pause, and that pause is negotiated ahead of time. And it's completely respected by all parties. It doesn't matter if you just pause for a water break to just get your bearings and calm your nervous system and maybe just take a break and check in to see how everybody's feeling, or if it's pause and, yeah, I think we're done for the night kind of thing. And sometimes that can leave a sour edge, which with friends, you kind of are like haunted by that, right? And that's not how you should feel about it, because if you're not ready for it, if it's not feeling good, then you stop. There's no need to just push through to like go through with the entire threesome. That never ends up going well. So I think that overall, it's better to find someone that's, you know, through Tinder, or a sex worker. That's also another good option. We haven't tried that between the two of us, but that's also another option as well. Sex workers are great also because they're extremely skilled and practiced in this kind of play. And they understand boundaries really well. So they're also a really safe bet. But I think that when we bring in friends, there's just so much more added to the mix. And then it feels much less safe to you, especially if you're worried about something happening afterwards, because you're like, well, this person is continuing to be in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how relationships build, right? Is keeping people around and in our lives
mm-hmm.
over time.
Yeah. And so when we're on the conversation about threesome, this is very different than having like a polyamorous relationship where you are then in a relationship with this person ongoing. The threesome, not to say that it's a one and done, but there is, like, they're just in your life for those circumstances. You're not hanging out outside of hookups, really. I mean, like you said, you might do dinner and drinks beforehand and whatnot, but aside from that, it's essentially just sex.
Right. And like I said, I've had plenty of clients and friends that have had amazing experiences with friends and threesomes. It's not an absolute no. But it's just like, if you're a beginner and you're new to this is where I suggest you start,
mm-hmm.
because we all have these triggers. We all know them. Don't let fear stop you, but like, take one thing at a time,
mm-hmm.
you know, like tackle one thing at a time. Yeah. And this is kind of like, if you're looking at it from like a levels perspective, like having a threesome with a friend is a little bit higher up there, because you're going to be tackling more insecurities and some other fears of yours.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And because like a polyamorous, right, would be like a triad, right? If my partner and I were sleeping with someone regularly and we had like a more romantic relationship with them, like that would be polyamorous. But that's like, when we're talking threesomes, it's not necessarily, we don't even really keep those in the same regard. So it's kind of a different conversation.
Yeah. Interesting. Oh, this is so good. So I wanted to talk about, and this is the whole reason why I invited you on this podcast, is because you created an incredible resource for people. Your threesome guide, really, that people can go to your website and get. And I've sent so many of my clients that are interested in this your way to get this resource, and I've heard rave reviews about it. I've seen it myself, but I want to give you space to talk about this and really tell us why you decided to create this, and everything that is jam packed into this guide, because it's so good for people.
Thank you so much. I'm so proud of it. I put so much love and effort into it, but it really was born out of having so many conversations about threesomes with friends and clients alike.
Hey y'all, I hope you are loving this episode so much. You know, I always try to bring the best of the best for you when it comes to topics and guests and all of that. And I wanted to pop on real quick, and I wanted to share with you this resource that I have available to you on my website. If you haven't been there yet, you want to go to rachelmaine.com, and here is why. One thing that I get messaged about so much on Instagram and Facebook and in email and all the ways that people have to connect with me is wanting more for their sex life. They are someone that is going through their own sexual journey. They might be having some sort of sexual awakening, and their partner just yet isn't on board. And so this resource that I have, if you and your partner are at a place in your relationship where you are both wanting to expand, you both are wanting more for your sex life and your connection, but you're really not sure exactly what that is. You don't even really know where to start. I highly recommend for you to go to the website, rachelmaine.com, go under the Work With Me tab, and you're going to see the most amazing workshop called How to Create the Sex Life That You Both Crave. This is priced at $39. It is very affordable for couples and individuals that are looking for more out of their sex life. This is going to take you through one of my favorite tools with people, and it's called the Want, Will, Won't list. I break this down for you in its entirety. I give you the version of my Want, Will, Won't list, and I also give you a video breakdown, the recording of a masterclass I did on this a few months back, and it is truly incredible. So set yourself up for a date night, go to the website, get this resource, set it on the calendar. Have that conversation with your partner. When is the night that's going to work best for you to sit down and go through this together? Pour yourself some glasses of wine, drinks, snacks, get cozy, get comfortable, turn off all the devices, no distractions, and allow yourself to really drop in and take the time to invest in your relationship with this resource. If you get this, DM me. I am so excited to hear how this has changed your life. Now, back to the show.
So I realize a lot of people are afraid of them, and I want them to have a positive experience. So I designed the Hotter Than Hot Threesome Playbook.
What a great name for it. Because as you said, yeah, what a hot experience once you can get over those fears and be able to, just indulge in these experiences. How fun. So can you walk us through the threesome guide? So if somebody was on the fence and maybe wanted to get this, what all is included in this, and how does it help the person on the other end?
So the first section is based on 5 parts. The first one is curious intention, kind of getting clear on what is your intention. The first few sections are done completely solo, right? So you're focusing on like, what is it about threesomes that you're curious about? What's kind of your intention around it? What do you want out of it? Then it gets down into limited beliefs and showstoppers, because that's the next thing that always comes up in a threesome conversation, is getting clear to yourself and honest with yourself about what it is you're afraid of. Are you afraid that you're not going to be good enough? Are you afraid your partner is going to run off with this new person? Are you afraid of whatever? And it's kind of a fear setting exercise that helps you see that most of the things that you're afraid of are kind of illogical and irrelevant. And there's no reason to not explore it just because of the things that you're afraid of. The next thing is your hot threesome vision. And this is the last part that you get to do solo, because after you get clear on what this vision looks like for you and what you want to get out of it and who you want doing what do you want to try together, because of course there are things you can only do with a minimum of 3 people. And that can be really fun to exercise. And I have some fun, sexy illustrations on there to give you some ideas, some check boxes, just to make it more fun. But then we get into the pillow talk play-by-play, which is really fun because at this point, you collaborate with your partner and share your findings from the previous sections. And the reason why I do this is because when it comes to threesome conversation, there's a lot of times when people will just say, oh yeah, I'm okay with that. Yeah, that's what I want too. And I want them to have each person, each partner, everyone involved to have their own space of getting clear on what this is to them and what they want to try without having the influence of their partner or playmate on what this experience means to them and what they want to try. Because otherwise the experience ends and you don't feel like fulfilled. And we want everyone feeling like fulfilled and having hot, zesty memories. So that's why I structure it that way. And then that conversation always leads into the last part, which is sexy boundaries. The sexy boundaries is bringing up like, hey, when we're going back and volleying what our experience is going to be like, you said that you want to go down on her, and that just made me feel like, oh, no, that doesn't feel safe. This comes up. Maybe you do some fear setting, but even if you don't feel safe around this, then that becomes a boundary. And so the boundaries talk is really great. So I help walk you through that and what that looks like and how to work together on that. And then it's really cool because I put together this threesome agreement that helps you negotiate how to pause a play, how to take a break, or how to end it completely. But that's kind of an agreement, something that you can both sign, or all 3 or 4 of you sign, so that it's like an agreed upon contract. So just like a fun, again, it's very fun and light. This is not like I didn't call it a worksheet for a reason. It is a playbook. And it's fun when you see it like that. And then the last piece of it is the post-play recap, because you have this amazing experience, you have an awesome time, and then the conversation that you have with your partners afterwards is also so important, because maybe you want to talk about if you want to try it again, what you liked, what you didn't like. There's so many different pieces to that conversation that you can extract from so that you can wrap it on a positive note, talk about what you liked and didn't like, and then talk about what that next experience could look like if you're interested.
Yes. I love the detail of it. And I love that you said like keeping it light. It's not like 50 Shades of Grey, that type of contract, right? That he has her sign in those movies. That's what I think of when it's like super serious. And so you're bringing this third person in, would you recommend then sharing that with them or allowing them to see, or even just having a conversation about expectations beforehand?
For sure. I mean, I think that obviously, like, this playbook is really fun to do, like, with your partner, of just even before you find this third, whether you're bringing in another guy or girl or whoever. I think it's important for you to do this exercise, but if you want to give it to your playmate or whoever you're interested in also throwing into the mix and, like, being and having this intimate experience with them, I think that's amazing. And go ahead and give it to them. I mean, the worksheet is yours. Like, the playbook is yours as soon as you download it. So you can keep redoing it. And this is a thing, too, that you can go through this exercise, but our sexuality and our curiosities are constantly evolving. So go back to this and see if there's anything else that's coming up new, if there's something else you want to explore. Like, don't just fill this out once and then just be done with it. Like, this is something that you can keep going back to. So feel free to share, and definitely share it with your playmate. Like, even if you don't want to give them the playbook and say, hey, I have this PDF that I want you to do. Maybe that's, too early on in the relationship, or, not kosher with the conversation you're having with her or him on Tinder. But I think it is really important over drinks, because we always have these kinds of conversations with our partners. Like, what are you interested in? Like, what kind of fantasy could we fulfill for you? There's a lot of hate on threesomes, or what they'll call, like, unicorn hunters. Couples that are really interested in having threesomes, but they're on Tinder or Bumble looking for another person. And that person doesn't necessarily, they don't want to feel like a sex toy, like, they want to feel like part of the experience. And I have been a unicorn, like the third for other couples in my past. And I always made sure to tell them, like, what I liked and what I didn't like. But that's because of my previous experiences. So I think it's great to have these kinds of conversations, but this playbook will give you the verbiage and the language to communicate to them, which I think is amazing.
Yeah. So good. All right. So this guide, this playbook, I'm loving it. And I'm also curious what your suggestion is. So this is very much for the people and the couples that they're both in. They both have that curiosity mindset, and they're a somewhat yes, maybe they're a want, maybe they're a will. But what about the people for this that are, if I share this with my husband and he's like a fuck no person, or even shames me for even wanting this in our relationship, what advice or guidance do you have for those people?
So I think that looking at people's reactions always is very telling. And one of the things I talk a lot about in feeling liberated in your sex life is if you are responding in a very aggressive way that's like, fuck no, I would never do that. It is coming from fear, not desire. So that's one thing, right? So just realize that. It's one thing if your partner is like, I'm not really interested in that. And that is literally just, it's a won't, because it's just, they don't have the curiosity profile. They're not turned on by it. Maybe it's something that we'll explore with you if they want, but we'll get into that conversation. The other side is how do you approach it? I always like to give people as much space, because this can be a very triggering thing. As we've talked about before, there's a lot of fears that come up. And when people jump to respond, what they're doing is trying to protect themselves from feeling the pain and feeling rejection and feeling insecure. And so I like to just kind of throw it out there, and maybe, like, my partner and I love emailing each other things, because it gives us space, because you're not looking at your email all the time, and you can respond to it on your own time. It might be something like, hey, I'm really interested in this. I was listening to this podcast and I thought it was super hot. Like, what do you think about exploring this? Like, it's not necessarily means that we have to do it, but I'd love to talk about it. So it gives them time to respond and have that initial, like, flush of emotions, and then they can come back to you. I love doing this through gifts. I love doing it through links to porn or anything that can give to make it light and keep it fun, and just say, hey, this is really turning me on. Explain how it makes you feel, and just ask if they're curious about it. And then make sure that you give them space, because their initial reaction is probably going to be out of fear and protection. So just let people feel their feelings, and then you can kind of go back to it. And the playbook is a great place to start, because maybe you go through it and you're not ready to, like, work through these fears yet. And the playbook is not you committing to having a threesome. It's just an exercise to begin the conversation. It will help you through it if it ends up being something that you both are on the same page with. But that's where the curious intention is as well, because one of the first questions that is on there is, are you doing this for you or are you doing this for your partner? Mm-hmm. And we have a really like heart-to-heart conversation right there in the playbook on that first page, talking about what that means and whether it's really for you if you're not really into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if it's not, if it's somebody giving in to please their partner, would you say that that's a no-no? Avoid that?
Yeah, it's just not going to be fun. It's not going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, like this is where I think like having a more monogamish lifestyle is nice, or non-monogamous, because the truth is that we all have different curiosities and we don't necessarily have overlaps with everything we're interested in with our partners. Having threesomes are really cool because, like, say your partner is really interested in bondage and you have literally no interest in the world about it. You can bring someone in who is interested in that, and it's fun to see your partner play that out with someone, especially when you have zero interest. Like, maybe you like watching it. Like, I love watching, like, hardcore BDSM. I'm not interested in being really part of it, but I love watching my partner have this experience with someone else. It's super hot to have this space of literally watching one of your favorite people on earth as your porn star now. So it's just like, how can you experience all these different angles of your curiosities? And yeah, so that could be where you start with that.
Yes. And my wheels are now turning, and if somebody is maybe a hell no, or maybe not ready yet to have a threesome, one thing that's worked for us from time to time is to bring threesome experiences in our role play during sex. And so, creating and through dirty talk and sexing and things like that, scenarios where we would potentially bring somebody home with us. And that has been interesting, to say the least. And so I feel like that has been like I should say my sort of step into the door of like furthering this conversation in our relationship. And it's funny because sometimes my husband is like no, like, he'll be like, I'll say, but I saw her talking to you. And he's like, yeah, but I told her I was married. I'm like, okay, thank you. Like that. Thank you for making me feel good. But also like, it's okay. Like we're just, like this fantasy is not real life, and it's okay to have this kind of fun. But yeah, it's cute. And again, we work in this field, right? We have such different knowledge and understanding around this sort of stuff versus the average Joe,
Yes. No, I think that's a really safe place to play. And honestly, there are so many of us that's just as fulfilling. Like that's all you need is to have this fun, like role play and just talk it out, because we all know that when you have this kind of sexy talk and banter, I mean, it can really lead both of you into having amazing, super connected, deep, hotter than hot sex just between the two of you, just having the conversation. And maybe that's how far you get. And even in the playbook, like that's exactly what the pillow talk is a play-by-play of you talking it out. That's how boundaries come up and you're like, hey, I'm not ready for this. But it's also just make it fun, like have this conversation, like have like a pre-play period. And maybe that's all you need. Maybe that fills the bucket up and you don't actually need to bring in an actual physical person.
Yeah.
So I love that you bring that up.
Yes. Yeah, I wanted to validate that for people that are, like I said, just dipping their toes in the water like me.
And it doesn't make you boring or meh if you're just not interested in threesomes, or if you don't want. It doesn't mean that you have a boring sex life just because you're not acting on the number one fantasy. Your relationship is your own. You design your relationship. It's between you and your partner of like what you're interested in, what you want to explore in. This is just one of the things that you can throw into your relationship to spice things up and try something new and introduce some novelty in.
Yeah. And I'll be curious too, if we do end up doing an IG live around this, or even after getting feedback from this episode about other fears that people do share, because again, it is the number one fantasy that people share. But even still, I know this is a fantasy of mine per se, yet there's still that fear there. So, working through the shadow side of this, I think is something really healthy for people to go through and really digging back the layers and feeling feeling out what is the fear that's present. Is it a trust thing? Is it a respect thing for yourself? Is it, is it something else? Again, like you brought up those top two things, is it's the fear that the person's going to be better, or the fear that they're going to essentially fall in love with that person, right? So yeah, it's so interesting. But if you're willing to take that risk, if you're willing to go down that path with somebody, who else to do it than with your life partner, right? The person that you have given your all to and all of your trust to.
It's a really bonding experience, which sounds really funny when you say it like that, because you think, well, but I'm bringing someone else into our relationship. Like, how is that bonding? But I think that the deep level of conversations that you have, like, non-monogamy is built on over-communication, because you have to have these conversations. Otherwise, you have these experiences and they backfire. And we want to have positive experiences. So we need to be very honest about how we feel and what's coming up for us. And I just think it's important. And it's just, it gets you both on the same page. And it's these memories. Like, there are still these times where it'll just be a random time in the day and we will reminisce about an experience that we had. And it's that person is no longer with us, but between my partner and I, like, do you remember then? Oh my God, that was so hot. And it just bubbles everything up again. And so it's fun to have those kinds of memories together. Novelty is just such a spicy thing. And of course, you don't only need to bring in novelty through threesomes, but it's definitely a fun way to bring that in.
Yeah. Thank you again, Erin, so much for coming on and talking about this. And I'm sure people are going to be running to go and to get your threesome guide. So where can they find you on Instagram, and where can they go to get this download?
So you can get the download from my website, erinkaley.com. And yeah, the playbook is on there. My Instagram is @erin.liveturnedon. And I have a lot of really cool content on there. I talk about threesomes and all the other fun things to spice up your life. But yeah, the playbook can be found on the website.
Yay! So exciting, and highly recommend Erin too for coaching and just as a resource for those of you that are looking to, again, explore down the non-monogamous route of relationships, and in definitely obviously with threesomes and stuff like that. So thank you for sharing your expertise again with us and reminding us that sex is play. I know you guys can't see her background, but that's what it says in her background right now. It's the cutest little Zoom background I've ever seen in my life. So thank you again so much, Erin.
Thank you so much, Rachel. It was so fun.
So fun.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you loved it, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a thing. And if you loved it so fucking much, be sure to leave a 5-star review. I'll see you next week, and until then, keep owning your sexual self.